Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Daily Devotion. Good to see everybody, as always. Love it when I hear some comments and we see some shares and some likes and all that fun stuff. But the best part of Daily Devotion is when somebody comes up to me at the Coast House, or somebody sends a DM or something and says, Pastor, I'm so thankful that you've been doing these. I'm so thankful. This was such a blessing. Or they'll remember something that I said, and that's where it really gets me. And I appreciate all of you guys, all the positive feedback, and I can take the constructive criticism too. So if there's something that you guys want to see more of, something you want to see less of, if they're too long, if my intro's too long, anything like that, let me know. Let me know how we can improve these. Always want to get better, and nobody's perfect here, right? Coast Church, we try to kick all the perfect people out, and they don't stay very long. That's the cool thing about it. So let's jump in today. What do you see? And I want to put a little subtitle on that. What do you see when you're not where you want to be? What do you see when you're not where you want to be? When you're not at that level in life, when you're not just performing and thriving and growing, when you feel stuck, when you feel stagnant, when you feel like the comfort zone is actually suffocating you, what do you see in that moment? And the reason I ask this question is because there's a scripture, a story actually in the Bible where God had delivered the children of Israel from Egypt, from slavery, right? Talk about a stranglehold. He delivered them from slavery, and he told them, I have a promised land for you. A promised land. He says, I got a promised land for you. I want you to go see it. So they wander around in the wilderness, and then they're like a silly dove. They're calling back for Egypt. And then they get close to the promised land, and they say, let's send 10 spies out. And 8 out of 10 come back with a negative report of the promised land, the land that was already given to them. They come back and say, you know what? There's giants there. You know what? They're strong. There's walled cities. You know what? I just don't think we can handle this. They saw God had already promised them that next step, that next breakthrough. God had already promised them growth and thriving and being sanctified. God had already promised them that, but then when they went to see it, it didn't look like how they wanted it to look. And so I asked this question, what do you see when you're not where you want to be? Do you see promise or do you see peril? Peril, like perilous time. Do you see promise or do you see death? Do you see promise or do you see giants? Do you see promise or do you see walls? What do you see? When you're trying to break through, what are you seeing? And I think what happens is a lot of times is we see what the promise looks like right now. And if you don't get anything else out of this, I want you to get it. And it's kind of an alliteration, so kind of make that easy to remember. The promise is a process. The promise is a process. I'm gonna preach a message on that. Somebody probably already has. It's not original, but the promise is a process. It takes time. And so when you see where you're at right now, you may be like, God, there's giants here. There's walls here. What's good? This doesn't look like a promise. And what you got to understand, yes, it looks like a process. But if you're in the process, if you step into the process, those walls come down, those giants fall, and you possess the promise that God has for you. And the promised land is where you grow. The promised land is where things go exponential. The promised land is where you're walking on faith and you're going not from death to, maybe a little bit of life. You're going from life to life abundantly. You're going from faith to faith. And so do you see the promise, or do you see the God of the promise? Do you see the process and, I've got to go through all this? Or do you see God in heaven looking down from you with so much love as a good father, looking down and saying, you know what? I've got something great for you. What do you see? Do you see what looks impossible, or do you see what he's already done? Because at the cross, he conquered death, hell, and the grave. When he rose up in victory out of that grave, he conquered it, took the keys of the enemy. And so when I look at things that are impossible in life, when I look at things, we've planted a church, we have a son with special needs that we didn't think was going to live. We've been through some stuff. We've had people turn their back on us, say nasty things. I mean, there's been some impossible things but it's all been part of the process. And when I see the impossible and look at it in the face, I look back and say, okay, God, you did that back there. You did that back then. So don't look at the impossibility. Look at what he's already done. When you see in faith, it puts you into motion. When you look at the promised land and say, you know what, it looks like a process right now, but it's already promised, I'm going to walk that way. What happened was 8 of the 10 spies went the other way. 2 of them were the only ones that were able to possess the promised land, the ones that saw it through God's eyes. So what do you see? Or more importantly, how do you see? Remember, the promise is a process. The promise is a process. So everything you're praying for, every breakthrough that you want for your life, remember it's a process. It may hurt a little bit. Those first couple steps, kind of rough, right? But you're going to get through it by faith in Jesus, and only by faith in Jesus. It's not our works. It's nothing that we're doing. We're just putting our faith in him and walking according to the steps he's calling to you to. Love you guys. I'm here for you. Our church is here for you. We're praying for you. As a matter of fact, we're having prayer night tonight, open prayer at the Coast House. Next week will be community prayer, where we actually have it live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And I'll be leading through prayer on that, but on these open prayer nights. Not an alarm in our house, just an alarm on the phone. We got a doctor's appointment for Huntley today. Everything's okay, don't worry, just a routine checkup. But anyway, prayer tonight. So if you want to submit a prayer need, you can put it in the comments or send us a DM, and we'll make sure and cover that prayer request tonight. God bless all of you. Have a great week. The promise is in the process. All right, we'll see you.